That always happens that way. What's up, everybody? Our one viewer and the other viewer that left, like right before I hit on air. Welcome to Play It Painted Live. We're here with Phil. What's up, Phil?
Not much. How you doing?
Doing good, man. What are you painting?
I'm still working on the expansion set for Super Dungeon Explorer, the Von Drack expansion.
All right, cool.
Lots of little purple guys.
Nice. All right, and tonight I am working on an Infernal Horde. Actually, several of them. Hence the title of tonight's episode. Because I couldn't really think of anything else to title the episode, so why not just title it what I happen to be painting right now. I did cheat quite a bit on these models because I actually did most of the flesh last night, and I blocked off some of the colors already tonight, so I apologize if all you really get to see is me painting on like some of the details like the horns and the boring stuff, but hey, gotta get them done. So
How'd you do the flesh? It looks kind of bruised and mottled.
yeah, well, I airbrushed most of it. It was a base coat of like a demon flesh, I believe is the name of the color. And then I zenith highlighted it with a regular like rugged skin, and then washed it and highlighted it 2 different times. One with a sepia wash, and then the second time with a purple tone from Army Painter. So I know that sounds like an involved process, but with an airbrush it really isn't. You can get these done a lot faster, and you can get what I like is there's a lot of depth to the skin, and a lot of different colors, on the same patch of skin. So that's what I was hoping for anyway.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I spent part of the day coming up with ideas for the Saga tournament in August.
Okay, cool.
I was thinking about floating an idea where you look at the factions and you figure out, everybody's. I mean, there's Vikings, there's Saxons, there's Danes, and all. And some of these factions, although they're all medieval warriors, some of them are more expeditionary than others.
Yes.
And
Like
so,
oh, go ahead.
well, like obviously, Vikings don't spend a whole lot of time defending their homelands. They go out and take other people's.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about taking the factions and breaking them up into very loosely defined attackers and defenders. And then
Okay.
for the 3 rounds, playing it out like a kind of like an invasion scenario. So if 2 factions get paired up and one is an attacker class and one is a defender class, you'll play a scenario where the attacker is trying to basically affect a landing or break through a line of some sort and get models off the other board edge. Whereas the defender will try to hold the line and stop the attackers from doing so. If 2 attackers play, then or get matched up, then it's kind of like a slaughterfest where 2 rival raiding factions meet up and, well, we're going to take this land. No, we're going to take it, and then they wail on each other until only the survivors get to take the land.
Mm-hmm.
And if 2 defenders go at it, then it's kind of like a meeting engagement or like a challenge or taking territory back from long-standing feuds or something like that. And the story progresses until it whittles down to you only playing with about 4 points at the end there. And you've got things like taking and holding terrain. You've got I don't know, killing characters, escorting VIPs around, that sort of thing. I'm very, very early in the planning stages, but
So kind of like a home team and away team, right? Type thing.
yeah, that's kind of that's kind of where I was initially going with it. If it proves to be too unwieldy, I might change it up and do more traditional just scenarios. But it could be fun.
Yeah, I think it would be fun.
Yeah, for one day, and then it gives the opportunity for even more prizes: best attacker, best defender.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I'll start putting some of that stuff down on paper and then getting out. In case our one viewer happens to be interested in Saga, I'll get that out to the people who are posting on the Saugust
August.
tournament page.
Ah, you scared a viewer away with your comment. We were at 3 viewers. One viewer, I'll show you. And he left.
Oh well.
Oh well, he'll be back. Anyway, yeah, if you are watching the show right now, welcome to the show. If you like, go ahead and post what you are painting or what you should be painting. Because sometimes talking about what you should be painting, some people count that as painting. I don't know how that works exactly, but sure, why not?
I'll buy it.
So that's cool. So you're working on the Saugust. I'm calling it Saugust. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Even though it's Saga August as far as its spelling.
It sounds better as Saugust.
Yeah. I think we're gonna be lazy off the bat and just call it Saugust immediately. So anyway, I think Viv was gonna pop on at some point. He'd asked me about showing up tonight to talk about some of his latest ventures. I assume his foray into his first foray into IHMN because he did a battle report this past weekend
Cool.
for IHMN, which is cool. So maybe if he hops on, we can get his impressions there. And while we're here and while I'm painting these, I might as well try to explain um, what I intend to do with these because apparently most of the painting lesson is already gone on the flesh, but I'm trying to get these done fairly quickly. And the reason why is because I am working on a specialized type scenario for Eldorado that is going to be, I imagine it to be a 2 to 4 player scenario demo. So we're trying to move the scenario up. I mean the demos up in terms of trying to teach somebody a rich tabletop skirmish system like Eldorado, and those people might not be veteran tabletop gamers. So trying to kind of move this more into a multiplayer mode where they don't feel as nervous rolling up to the table and playing against the ninja, for example. Maybe they can join up with their friends, play a scenario, play to try to win the scenario against their friends. Um, almost put it more in almost like a board game type setting. And I'm hoping it feels more like a competitive, a semi-competitive board game situation where they're learning the basic mechanics of the game, and also playing in a scenario where we can have prizes and uh, we can have like different I guess different means of scoring this scenario. So the basics of it is you'd play 2 to 4 players, and each player would control. At right now, I'm thinking one unique, so one individual, and possibly one trooper, and all players would be playing against the ninja or the host, who will be playing a horde of something like demons or whatever they have the most of. Maybe it's a guy that plays mostly Lost. Maybe he fields um, a bunch of Squamata warriors instead. But the point being is, kind of make it more like a semi-cooperative board game. Teach the people the core mechanics of the game, and they get to learn this in a group. And with with any luck, everybody should be done in about an hour. And so now you have the means of actually taking a tabletop skirmish game and being able to teach multiple people the game at once and actually present it in a format that's even fun enough for somebody who already knows the game to try out and play alongside somebody that doesn't know how to play.
Super Eldorado Explore.
Yes, Super Eldorado Explorer. Well, I was calling it, I had a name for it, but I forgot what it was. But that's the basics of it. You know, we did try this. We did actually use this for Malifaux 1.5 back in the day. We had a specialized scenario that taught people in group.
Did we lose you?
For anima tactics, because anima tactics is actually perfect for, because if you have two heroes for anima tactics, you are literally playing a game of it. There's really no, you're not really skimping much there. So
Paul had worked on one for Inner Majesty's Name with zombies.
For IHMN, right?
Yeah. But I don't know if that ever came to fruition.
We tested it.
Yeah.
I know you tested it, and I played one of the scenarios, or the first scenario. I think he was more intending that to be a like a miniature campaign, a week-to-week type campaign.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, that was pretty fun actually. So let's see, we've got a comment from Jose Peral back on the grid. Welcome back, Jose. And he says he is working on his Westerner starter set, which is awesome, because hoping to get in some more Eldorado with Jose and other people that want to join in as well. So cool. I'm looking forward to that. Jose, it would be cool if you did. I know it's a bit of a field trip, but if you did want to come down to Orange County on June 14th, that is when we're doing our Ninja Day down here. And we'll be giving out some prizes. And I will spoil some of the prizes because you're the only person watching right now. So you get to know, and nobody else will know. Well, Phil will know, but I don't think Phil. You said you weren't sure you could make it that day.
Right.
You may have family down or something. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So anyway, here are some of the prizes that we're planning on doing. So essentially, what we're going to do is, because this is an open play event, I'm going to have a bunch of raffle tickets. So any game that you play, you'll get a raffle ticket for each game that you play, in fact. And we're going to restrict it to the Ninja game, so you can't show up and play 50 games of 50 10-minute games of Love Letter and try to collect 50 tickets. It's not going to work that way. But anyway, for each Ninja game that you play, whether it be demo, whether it be scenario, whether it be just open play, you're going to get a raffle ticket. And we'll put the raffle tickets in a giant jar thing, and at the end of the day, we'll pull the raffle tickets and hand out some prizes. So as of right now, I've got 3 different prizes to give away, and 2 of the prizes are sets of resin bases from Wargamma. So from Mr. Dandy James, here's an example of one that I'm painting right now. Here, I'll show you a painted one because that one looks like shit. We'll look at this guy. So let's see if I can actually show this on camera. Meaningful, like scorched land. This looks like ripped up flesh here. Anyway, I'm giving away 2 sets of resin bases by Wargamma, which is cool because you can't get those in stores. You have to order them, whatever. But they're fantastic for Eldorado. They look great for Anima Tactics. So you got those. I'm also, as one of the main prizes, I am raffling off a limited edition Eldorado for starter. And so she's not a model that you can normally get. So that should be cool. Hopefully that's something that you find interesting. So that's what I have so far. I don't know. I may throw in an SDE thing to raffle off as well. So we'll do it that way. That's the basic format of the event. But anyways, it's simple. Come down, play a few games, enjoy, and that's it. That was a good ramble on that. Yep, that's it. So yeah, looking forward to that, and it should be a fun time, I think. So that's what I'm working on recently, and beyond that, I guess we need to start getting ready for our summer conventions here. We have a couple of conventions that we're working on, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So the first one coming up is Anime Expo. That's going to happen the July 4th weekend. Um, yeah, that's an exciting one. That's actually. Have you ever been to that, Phil?
No. Where
Okay.
is that?
That's in LA. um, the LA Convention Center.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and it's a pretty big show, 70,000 in attendance, I believe. Um, Now here's the thing: it's not a gaming convention, which you would think, okay, so maybe it's like uh, maybe it's like a PAX or something where you may have tabletop gaming there, but it's not that big of a draw. Um, that's actually not true for Anime Expo. Anime Expo it's not a gaming convention. However, people there are starving for stuff to do in between their panels, in between their signings and their shopping and everything. And to come in there with some tabletop games, um, we found out the hard way is actually insanely popular. So we get a crazy amount of foot traffic and attention at that show, and that's the show that if you're not prepared for it, it can break you.
Hmm.
I will break you.
Well,
I'll,
you get a. I mean, how many people did you have supporting last year?
um, I think for the most part it was Paul and Mark.
Right.
Paul had a few other volunteers. I came down and worked for a day. Billy and Matt Shears showed up, and I think Lemming helped out for a bit, and obviously Richard Carmody. So even with all of those people helping, um, we were, any table that we had was full all the time. So if we had, I think at some points we had, 5, 6 people working separate tables, and those tables were full. So you figure 12 at a time or more, and we also had people sitting around waiting to try out the game. So
Wow.
it's a very, very busy show, and not for the faint of heart.
Sounds
Um,
like it.
but it's one of the shows that I wish did not happen during July 4th weekend, because I would love to actually be able to work more of that show. Um, and help my brother out, because that show is pretty insane.
Yeah, the holiday weekends are always tough.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a big show. I know we're gonna have Richard will be back again this year. He just to help out. He's not technically on the team, but I'm gonna see if I can do something special for him, because he did that last year too. He didn't. He just kind of helped because he wanted to, which is pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Very cool.
So let's talk about what you got going on this summer, because I know you have you've got quite a crazy schedule ahead of you, sir.
Yeah. Getting married in shoot. Yeah, 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. Wow.
Yeah, I'm. My gaming is temporarily on pause.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty impressed that you were even on tonight painting. Or is this more of a stress relief for you?
this is kind of a stress relief, but I'm not going to be on late because I got to get up early tomorrow for work. But the it helps if you say it twice. But no, I got the wedding on the 20th, and you know the I'm my current favorite is Super Dungeon Explorer, the arena version, and I just taught my cousin how to play at your tournament at GameX,
Hmm.
and he enjoyed it so much that I threatened to bring it out because the people who are going to be able to make it back east for my bachelor party are basically my brother, my cousin, and my friend Dan, and we're all gamers.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, so after we go out and have dinner and get sufficiently lubricated, meaning drunk, not
Hmm.
anything else. It's a bachelor party. I should probably clarify that. Um, I might break out the Super Dungeon Explorer. That's the sad part of how tame it's going to be, but it'd still be fun. Um,
Well,
and I think Drunken Dungeon Explorer would be a really good time. But I don't know. We're doing that, and then I'm looking forward to Comic Con after that. That's my
nice.
big thing for the summer. And then that's followed up with Saugust, and then we close it all out with the Strategicon thing. And yeah,
Wow. Wow.
I don't know.
That's interesting. So no, are any of the guys at the bachelor party? Uh, I'm not saying you're not going to the strip club, but are they going to be disappointed if you like, hey, let's leave the strip club and play some SDE or anything like that?
To be honest, no. Um, I mean, like for example, when my brother got married, he was really nervous because I was the wild child. He was nervous that I was going to take him, and he would be in all sorts of compromising positions and everything. No, we went and had a nice steak dinner. We went and got cigars. We went to this. It was a bar inside of a townhouse. So it was a couple of floors. They had fireplaces, couches, a couple of live bands. I invited some friends that I knew in the area. They came over, and I mean, there was just a bunch of people there, and nothing. It wasn't shady or risque in any way, and we all had a great time. And
The authorities were not involved.
no, not at all. My brother hated me the next day. He had a hangover that could have cracked the Rock of Gibraltar, but um, and I have the feeling that he's going to want vengeance on me for that.
Yeah.
But it's Providence, Rhode Island on a Wednesday. How crazy can we get?
Oh, I don't know, man. Providence, Rhode Island.
it's,
I, I don't think I've ever been to Providence, Rhode Island, so I can't say.
it's a nice town. It's not exactly Manhattan or New Orleans or
Sure.
but yeah, it's gonna be a good time, and this is a fairly compact, transportable game if I do it
Mm-hmm.
right, and I won't have too much stuff to carry with, so
Nice.
yeah.
One thing I locked in on, you mentioned that you guys had some cigars for your brother's wedding. Do you want me to try to get you some cigars before you head out east? Um,
Uh, to be perfectly honest, I don't have any preferences one way or the other. It's what people want to
oh,
do, and I'm fully behind. I'm not asking for anything from anybody. I'm just hoping people show up and have fun. And then
sure. Well,
afterwards, at the end of
mhm,
the summer, everybody in California that couldn't make it out, we're gonna do a little barbecue shindig and have some fun. And I hope people have fun at that. So,
nice.
I'm just happy to be here.
There you go.
But if you decided to do so, it would be greatly appreciated.
Nice. Well, I don't know if you knew this about me, but I used to be quite the cigar aficionado
Oh,
at one
cool.
point. Yeah, this was when I was taking a break from miniature gaming, and I was like, wait a minute, I have money. Um, and
Strange how those two go together, yeah?
yeah, single guy, and I used to come home from work and break out uh, the Churchill-sized cigars, break out one of those, sit on my patio, a little bottle of wine or whatever, and I'd sit out there for a couple hours because when you're single, you have time like that, which is insane. Um, but yeah, I haven't smoked a cigar in man, I want to say 2, maybe even 3 years, and I've got a fairly respectable collection. I can try to send you guys off with some nice cigars.
Well, that would definitely be appreciated. We might actually be down in the CQ area on the 14th if we meet my parents down in the Orange County.
Oh,
So
cool.
if we are, then we'll stop by.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, that would be awesome. And let me know, and then I would be more than happy. My wife would actually be happy too, because she's like, you never smoke cigars anymore. I'm like, we have a baby in the house, so you'd be actually helping me out, and I'd feel a little bit better that my cigars were put to good use here.
No problem.
Cool. So I got Jose's message here on the comments. It looks like he is going to make it out on the 14th, which is awesome.
Sweet.
Um, that should be fun. So he can play Eldorado, he can play Anima, SDE, whatever you want to play, Jose. Sounds like a good thing. So
I got to tell you
nice.
what we did at the Monstore last Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
The we it was just four of us. It was me, Kevin, Rory, and Jake,
Hmm.
and three of us brought Epic, and one of us just kind of looked at us and shook his head. I would say,
That must have been Rory.
yeah. Um, no, he was cool. He ended up buying a game called Masquerade, and
Hmm.
we tried it out, and it was fun. I mean, it took a couple of games to get into the actual mode of how you're supposed to play it, but it ended up being a lot like Coup and a little bit like Avalon, but it was fun and it was fast paced. But
Hmm.
Kevin and Jake and I all got in a game of Epic and had a good time with that. And Jake continually said how it was the best game ever. But um, I ended up picking up Star Trek Attack Wing, and
Wow.
yeah, well, I enjoyed the X-wing demo that I got,
Yeah.
and Rory had an excellent point when he said that X-wing doesn't have the Borg,
Hmm.
so that kind of influenced my decision. But and I picked up another little card game that was, pretty fast-paced, easy to learn. But yeah, all in all, it was just a good day. Jake also got a Netrunner demo in with Rory, and we had fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually did not get to game this last weekend, but that's not a big deal. I mean, I had a kind of a big family weekend, so. However, I did discover that there are certain like arcade games that you can play with a baby strapped to the front of you, which
Yeah.
is kind of awesome.
I saw those pictures. They were good.
Yeah, I forget the name of the game. It's like Sword of Mazan or something like that, and it's you know how you have those stand-up arcade games where typically uh, you'll have two players and they'll each have a gun and you shoot your gun at the screen or whatever. This game was a little bit different because you have a foam katana, and you hold the foam katana in front of the screen and you kind of wave it around to either parry attacks or try to cut down basically what are the equivalent of um, what's it called, Yan Lo's crew, basically. So you're fighting like undead Ashigaru and like some undead ninja stuff. But yeah, that was good times. Got to play uh, some video games with our kids. So
Very cool. Raising them right.
Yeah, so that was good times, and then Sunday was just kind of a relax and be home with the family day. But it did give me some time to do a little painting, so I did paint my Corvus Harriers, which had been sitting around. Here's one of them. Obviously, I think most people are calling these Heckle and Jekyll because they really do look like that. I mean, they really do look like a Heckle and Jekyll type thing.
That's awesome.
And then so I was finishing those up, and I'm like, what are all these Eldorado blisters doing on my desk? And I started putting them together, and I'm like, oh, Infernal Horde, oh, Infernal Horde, oh, Infernal Horde, oh shit. And it totally spaced my mind that I'd forgotten that I bought a shitload of Infernal Horde with the idea of putting this scenario together. Because it's something I bought. I think I got these like super cheap on eBay or something, and now they're here. And I figured, hey, these have been on my to-do list since before I was inundated with commissions. So that's always good. I am going to reload some comments here and see if we have some comments. I don't have any comments on YouTube right now. However, I am talking with Dave, who is one of the co-hosts for the new Eldorado podcast, Total Command. He sent me a couple of messages right now. Now, I was going to ask you, Phil, have you had a chance to listen to the podcast yet?
I listened to the first hour of it. I didn't have time to listen to the rest of it,
You
but
finished it.
it is good. I enjoyed it because for me personally, although I've played the game a couple of times, it's nice to get backgrounds, especially on factions that I don't play, and it's fun. It's light. The music at the beginning kicks ass, and you can tell it's a group of people that work well together and that enjoy just talking about the games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought it was a well-made production.
Yeah, and definitely looking forward to more episodes from them. I thought it was, yeah, I really did enjoy it, and I'm with you. I think that the intros were, even though I'm familiar with the factions, at least on a cursory level, I felt that hearing somebody else explain it and kind of introduce the faction in their own words even helped me kind of gain perspective on, for example, I play Immortals mostly, and to hear how they condensed the Immortal fluff into about 15 seconds was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
So
you wait.
yeah, and one of the things I like on when I'm listening to shows like that or watching live shows or whatever is I like the banter. I like to hear I like to see how the co-hosts and everybody can react to each other. And so these guys look like they sound like they're a fun group of guys, and they're hopefully we should hear them arguing about stuff pretty soon, because that's always good. Even though they you could tell there's a bit of a playful rivalry going on there. Or I think they're all kind of vying for which one of them sucks the least. I think that's what it sounded like. And I don't mean that in a bad way, Dave. I'm just saying that's kind of cool, because you guys
It's
admit that you're,
self-deprecating, and
yeah,
it's approachable.
mm-hmm. I mean, there are a lot of times podcasts or some of these media, and I may even be guilty of this at times. Like, we try to sound like we're experts on something, or we're professional something or other, and we're just gamers, man. We just play the game, and we can always learn something new. Nobody's completely brilliant at everything.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say I am most of the time, but yeah. So, I wonder where Viv went. He was he might have gone walkabout, if I'm allowed to say that. I think I am.
Yeah.
But we'll catch up with him in a little bit. So, yeah, so crazy summer ahead of you. Um, I was gonna ask, um, do you have any, in addition, never mind. I'm gonna rephrase this because I need to set up this question. With some news. So the news today is that, and I don't know who else watching here backed the Relic Knights Kickstarter, but the news is that the Kickstarter, the carton arrived from China, which was awesome. That was news um, on the Soda Pop feed, and it's got a bunch of us excited. Myself being one of those people really excited about Relic Knights. So you figure that container it was shipped over. Now it's got to be sorted and processed, and all the orders need to be sent out and checked and all that. So you figure we're still probably a good month or more out before we actually start seeing this stuff in hand. Two questions for you, Phil. One, did you back the Relic Knights Kickstarter? And two, is there anything imminent from Kickstarter that you are expecting over the summer?
I did not back the Relic Knights Kickstarter.
Okay.
And I am not sure how snarky you want me to be with my response to the second question.
I don't know. However, you can go full snark if you feel like. It's whatever.
That's true. I don't think I'm going to get sued over this. I mean, they have my money. I can guarantee you that we ain't going to see no Through the Breach. I mean, holy shit. I'm just going to be a middleman for that thing anyways. I mean, as soon as it comes in, off it goes. But it's I do have hopes for Arena Rex. I'm getting some rumblings of good things happening, although they have hired the slowest sculptor ever. He does brilliant work.
Yeah.
To catch everybody up, Arena Rex is the last sculpts that they have to do are a couple of riders and a couple of big beasties, and they're being done by a former sculptor and mover and shaker at Rackham Miniatures for the Confrontation game that was so beautiful a few years ago with rules more complicated than tax law. And it was they hired him on. He's done freelance stuff for a while, so they hired him on to do some Arena Rex sculpts, and it's taken him about 6 months or more to do one lion.
Yes.
Now, granted, this lion is huge and it's gorgeous, but it's 6 months to do one lion.
It's actually 6 months ongoing, because even the last update, they said, hey, look, here's the progress. He's coming along well, which to me implied that they're not even done yet.
Yeah,
so
that's
I was
true.
like, really?
But the good news, I was reading the comments, because if you ever want to feel better about yourself, just read some of these comments on the delayed Kickstarters. Oh my God, it's hilarious. But they are looking at shipping in waves.
Okay.
So if you ordered, a Lupa model and I forgot all the names. If you an Otho and a Tiet Kiwi, and they're ready, but Leo isn't, then they'll ship those models that are ready along with the bases once they come in. So that's something to look forward to.
Huh.
And I still have faith because I think that the rules are simple and fast, and I think it's going to be a great tournament game and something that you can cart around fairly easily if you're not afraid of your stuff breaking. It's going to be very compact, portable, and real quick to pick up, but that's if it ever gets here.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'm quite as confident as you. I think the rate that this guy's sculpting, I think we might be looking at more likely the fall, or maybe even the winter, before we really start seeing stuff. I don't know. I know that they did finish. I want to say off the top of my head, I think they finished a good dozen or more of the models based
Hmm.
on the videos that they put out. So that's promising. But I don't know. I think I'm a little more jaded than you are in this regard because I think, and it's mostly because of the lion. It's mostly because of the lion.
No, you're
Because
right.
because the sculpts, some of the sculpts that they did, um, were just freaking amazing. What was the one that we were looking at? The Wendigo, which I thought was a way more. And I'm not a sculptor, so what the hell do I know? But um, it looked like a way more complex model than the lion. But for whatever reason, the lion is the one that's taking the longest time, and I'm like, what the hell? How did they finished the Wendigo, which when I saw the artwork for, I was like, oh, that's going to take forever to finish. That one's going to be the one that they're going to stumble on. But no, the lion. And granted, I would probably say that this is the best, or maybe one of the best lion sculpts I've ever seen.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm still somewhat amazed at how long it's taking them to sculpt the lion.
They have. I was looking at the Kickstarter right now. They've got 12 models in inventory.
Okay.
Wendigo is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They have 12 models in production currently being cast. They're aiming for a late July delivery. And they're troubleshooting one, two, three, four models. And then on the sculpting table are all that one sculptor's stuff: Leo, Septimus, Nero, Hiroka, and Kehota. So,
Yeah.
yep. A big horse, a big bull, a big lion, and a couple of figures. So, hey.
I'm with you though. I'm still very excited about that game, and I think that game still has quite a bit going for it. And I definitely think that we'll be putting that together and painting it fairly shortly after it arrives. That said, though, I I do feel like I will spend more time painting those just because to me the quality demands it.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and those are got to be some of the finest sculpts I've seen in miniatures. Period. And and I love this stuff. This stuff is fantastic, and it's one of my favorites. But I would easily put the Arena Rex stuff up there, right up there with it. So
It's going to be challenging too because one thing that I'm starting to do already is as I've well, I'll go ahead and say it. It's going to sound pretentious, but bear with me. As I've matured as a gamer, he said as he painted a little chibi skeleton. Um, I've tried to take on more challenges and try different things well outside of my comfort zone, and it ended up working out really well in that I found some cool stuff to play and a lot of neat paint techniques that I'd never really considered before. Some of it stuck, and some of it was just more hassle than I felt it was worth.
hmm
Um, but the thing about the Arena Rex is that it's going to be very, very skin heavy.
yep,
So you're going to have to, if you're used to just slapping on a base coat and a wash, that'll look fine. But if you want to take it to the next level, you're going to have to up your game a little bit. And I'm definitely going to have to up mine.
yeah, I feel the same way. I think I would have to. I mean, and I'm the I'm the guy that likes to spend the most time on the flesh of the model. I mean, even these, which were, um, you know, um, I want to say 60% airbrush job on the flesh. It was still a pretty extensive process in terms of the number of colors used and the washes and the different stages and highlighting. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Not to mention the fact that because a lot of the models are primarily flesh, you can't really just break out the basic skin tone, slap it on every single model, and then run with it. Because there's going to be some variations. You're going to have Egyptians and Scandinavians and Native Americans, and
Hmm.
they're all going to have very, very different skin tones. So it's going to be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, I think mostly I went into Brotherhood, which is kind of a hodgepodge of different nationalities, but Brotherhood has a lot of Scandinavian and some Native American skin tones in it, so that should be pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I ended up going mostly with the Morituri, the Egyptians,
Hmm.
but I couldn't resist some of the uh, Ludus Magnus figures that were the big heavy gladiators and some of the special characters here and there. But it's going to be interesting drawing tattoos and doing all sorts of miniature little customization jobs to try and make the models pop.
That's right, some freehand stuff involved as well. So yeah, and I think for me, most of the model ranges that we work on has different challenges. Using, like, for example, you're painting Super Dungeon Explorer right now, which has lots of big, broad features and rounded features, and those aren't may not be as much of a challenge. But then you've got the freehand part with the eyes, which a lot of people find challenging, and you also have kind of a brighter color range, and a lot of people have told me that they struggle with a really bright palette
It
and
is,
trying to keep everything clean.
yeah, it is different, and a lot of my stuff comes out looking kind of dirty, and I have to remind myself to go with the brighter colors, which I don't normally do, which is why this set is primarily purple and green. But it is different. But
Yeah, I mean, I like painting the brighter colors. I'm actually the opposite. It's if you try to get me into the muted colors, I kind of pause at that a bit because I'm just not used to it. You know,
oh, I've been painting grimdark for so many years that it's second nature.
if you want to give me like a pink robot, like I can do that. Pink robot, not a big deal. You know, some bright, colorful things is not a big deal. You want to give me, something that has a darker, grimdark color tone to it. It might look a little funny. I don't know. These look okay, but these like look kind of bright compared to a lot of the other Corvus stuff I've seen.
Well, do you do
Um,
yours? Do you base everything in white, or do you do some stuff in black?
and I prime every single model in white, so I know that's part of it.
Yeah,
It's just
go ahead.
I'm just saying that's a lot of my tricks are require a white undercoat, so that's part of my standard routine.
Yeah, I've only really just started white undercoats for SDE because it does make the colors brighter, but for everything else, it's black all the way. Um, except for that alchemist I did for Brandon. I think I painted him white first,
That
maybe.
makes sense, though, because the alchemist has like those Saracen miniatures they have like that cream color or white color their clothing, so
Right.
that makes sense. I went through a phase when I was painting GW stuff where I went through an all black primer phase. Um, but and that worked for stuff like Chaos Space Marines or Orcs or whatever. But then you know High Elves, Eldar, all that stuff got me back to white primer. And by the time I left, stopped painting and playing GW stuff, I was still relied on a lot of my white primer tricks to help me achieve the kinds of the looks and the style that I prefer.
Cool.
Sweet. So we got 6 viewers now, so I guess people are waking up or tuning in. If you guys are just tuning in, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know what you're painting or what you should be painting. I'm going to reload comments here real quick. Having some weird audio with you, Phil, going in and out at times.
Yeah, it fades a bit sometimes.
Yeah, I picked up these headphones last week because I was shooting some, I think it was a painting video for Anima, and it just didn't, it just wasn't picking, my standard mic wasn't picking up my voice well, so I'm trying this out. So, okay, a couple other comments. That was an excellent podcast. I think that's Jose referring to Total Command. So, Dave, here's another fan of yours. An excellent podcast. Nice to listen while painting. I agree. Well said, Jose. And then we've got Tin Man XL who popped in and say, "What's up? What's up, Tin Man?" Wanted to say, hey, I watched your vlog video this week. We can talk about that for a few while you're still here, Phil. And that was awesome stuff, dude. Good stuff. So thanks for popping in, Tin Man. So Phil, I know you're not heavily entrenched in the YouTube wargaming world here.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know if you know who Tin Man is, or Steven, or Steve Steam Power TV, but
No.
an long time YouTuber. Back in the day, one of the first guys to bring War Machine to YouTube, and he did a video that was kind of a recap of his journey through YouTube wargaming and leaving YouTube for Blip, and some of the hardships that he endured leaving YouTube and then being kicked off of Blip and coming back to YouTube, and some of his plans for his channel, and his that seems to be something that's kind of going around now. People maybe it's that time of year, people are re-examining where their channels are at, what they want to be doing, what their plans are moving forward. I found myself, after watching his video, kind of reevaluating where I am here on this channel. Because I won't lie to you guys, there have been a few times where I'm like, maybe I'll just stop putting out videos. And it's not because I'm not having fun putting the videos out, but it was almost like, with the having to cut down my gaming time and priority shifting with my family and all that, I thought about it. But then, kind of pulled myself together and decided, hey, if there's one person out there painting while I'm painting, and they get something out of this, and they can, they're able to finish projects or whatever, or maybe it's some guy that just watches this because they hate the sound of my voice, I'm cool with that too. That's enough motivation for me to keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, whoever, if you want to hit dislike and be like, yeah, you suck, like for some reason, I'd be like, oh, cool, someone cares, and I'll keep doing videos. But
It'd be awkward if I did that, though.
yeah, that's your sign out.
Yeah.
Like, you suck, and you just leave the show. That would be kind of awesome. But yeah, YouTube is interesting because it really is what you make of it, and I think expectations of YouTube and what I would consider to be hobby broadcasting have changed with the advancing technologies and the I guess the emergence of we'll say what's the word I'm looking for? The establishment, what everybody expects from hobby media. That's kind of changed how people look at channels, and you can get caught up in, I have this many subs or this many views or whatever, but bottom line is, if you don't enjoy it, you shouldn't be doing it unless you're getting paid exorbitant amounts of money. And frankly, I don't think anybody gets paid exorbitant amounts of money for miniature wargaming. I could be wrong though. Um,
Yeah, I think it would be awesome to go pro, but yeah, not at this stage of my career.
Well, I think one of the things that we really appreciate about guys like Tin Man and say Cameron, LY, Listen While You Play, and a lot of the guys that we hang out with, Viv in particular, another super cool guy, is these guys just they put up the videos that they want to put up, and they're unapologetic about trying to cater to one person or next, or trying to game the system for views or uh, for status or anything like that. And that's what I think that's what people appreciate the most. Is like these guys are just enjoying their hobby, and they're cool enough to invite us in and show us what they're doing for fun. And when I see stuff like that, then I'm in. I'll watch your videos even if I don't play your game. And Tin Man's a perfect example of that, because I don't play. I don't really play War Machine. I do own some, but to call me a War Machine player, I don't think that's an accurate label for me. Nevertheless, I still really enjoy watching War Machine content, and I watch his channel, and I watch a bunch of other channels that I consider to be really good hobby channels, and I can appreciate them for that. So I also appreciate that these guys watch, some of the other stuff that they don't play either. I know that not all the viewers of my channel are playing these ninja games, and I appreciate that that they just peek in and see what we're painting or what we're playing. So that's kind of awesome. So, yeah.
Who joined? Oh, that's Viv. Okay.
G'day, guys.
Hi, what's up? We were
Not
just
much,
talking
mate.
about.
Yeah, I heard. I enjoy it. Just following on from what you were saying about guys like Tin Man. I watched his video as well the other night, and YouTube and the state of it. No, I mean, that's what I do it for. I enjoy it's an extension of my hobby. I don't make any money from it. I make a tiny amount of money, but not a huge amount. I put stuff on YouTube for the sake of sharing stuff with those people that perhaps I can't catch up with, such as yourself. We're in different areas of the world, but we can share the hobby together. And even people in my own region who I don't get a chance to catch up with. Being a dad of a 7-month-old, I don't get a lot of time to get out and about. It's nice to be able to share what can sometimes be a solitary hobby with other people. And YouTube's a great media for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very akin to the video that you put out earlier in the year that was kind of like, fuck it, I'm gonna show whatever I want to show, which was a great video.
I think there's sort of this it's not a stigma as such, but this pressure to sort of be better and use fancy graphics and produce stuff and promote stuff and all that sort of business, which is great for those people that enjoy that sort of stuff. But I don't. I mean, we're all grown men playing with toy soldiers after all. I mean, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, you keep that in perspective, and sure. I mean, I think that's a healthy attitude to have. So that's quite. I forget, you did a video on the miniature that you're working on right now. Can you refresh us on that? Thing is gigantic, first of all.
He's huge. I wouldn't necessarily call him a miniature, but no, this is Sergeant Tekuromo. I can't remember his name. He's a sort of a blend of a New Zealand name, so a fighting warrior, from the guys at Savage Forge Minis. They produce a whole bunch of different sorts of busts and larger scale sort of stuff that you'd paint for sort of collecting purposes or display purposes. And I chat with Dennis from Savage Forge a couple of times a week on Google Hangouts, and I'd mentioned that I was getting tired of painting little figures and stuff. I've got so many of them. It just sort of, unless I'm painting something that's for a small skirmish game where each figure is different and I can enjoy the process of painting each one because I know that once I've done this guy, the next guy's going to be different, it becomes sort of laborious and sort of tedious, and I don't really enjoy it so much. So I was explaining that to Dennis, and he was like, "Look, I'll send you something in the mail." And then this guy turned up. And I was like, unbelievable. So he's available from their website. I think it's savageforgeminis.de. But he's fantastic. So I'm taking my time with him. I've had several people sort of say, what's happening with him? Have you painted him yet? And it's always, no. I'm taking my time. I'm slowly removing these mold lines, sanding everything back, and just enjoy playing with this big sort of massive chunk of resin.
That's pretty awesome. I don't think I've ever painted anything that scale. That looks like a lot of fun.
It does.
No, I haven't painted anything this big either, and that's part of the reason why I just want to take my time in it and sort of enjoy it. And don't get me wrong, I'm slightly nervous about painting him as well because it is such a big figure, and I mean he's reasonably expensive. I think he's €80 on Dennis's site, but I need to do him justice, and the only way I can do him justice is just by taking my time and sort of absorbing the miniature, absorbing the sculpt, and that happens as a result of cleaning all these mold lines carefully and sanding everything back and gap filling any issues and all that sort of stuff. And then once I get around to painting it, I'll have a good understanding of all the creases, the molds, and all the folds, and hopefully be able to do a reasonable job.
That's cool. Yeah, that should that looks like a very fun miniature. So the other thing that you've done lately apparently is you put up an IHMN battle report. You want to give us a little recap of that?
Yeah, look, I've had that game for probably more than a year, and I had all the 5 starting factions painted by a painter in Sydney from steam-powered painting, I think they're called. One of the guys in Sydney, and I've had them sitting around for ages, and various friends have said, yeah, look, I'd be keen to play, but with the baby, and you'd know this, it's difficult to sort of organise time and get away and all that sort of stuff. So it's just sort of been going on and on and on, and I thought, look, the only way that I'm going to be able to play this game is if I play myself. Sort of relating back to that solitary hobby thing at the moment. I mean, it's now that our daughter's getting a bit older, it's a bit easier, and I've been able to get out to some of the clubs. But I thought, bugger it, look, let's just put the camera on, and I'll film a game because the rules are super simple, as you'd know.
Yep.
But it's just a matter of playing them and becoming familiar with all the different modifiers. And the only way you can do that is to play the game and find out all the weird quirks and areas where you need to make stuff up and. So it was a fun game. I really enjoyed it. It was just about 130 points. I'd removed 3 of the more special characters from both factions, from the Servants of Ra and Scotland Yard, just so I could get used to the basic plebs and their basic rules, and then at least one guy with mystical powers and talents and all that sort of stuff. And then once I understand those, I can incorporate some new guys with different mystical powers and slowly just work my way through it. And I was going to film it like I did from that overhead angle. That was just a camera on a boom pole, and then narrate it afterwards. But by the time I'd finished the game, and it was sort of 2:30 in the morning, and I didn't realise what time it was when I started, but I was so pumped. I had such a great time. And I thought, bugger it, I can't be bothered doing all these, relating back to not being Walt Disney and fucking standards and all that sort of stuff. I thought, bugger it, I'm just going to put it into time lapse and upload it, and then later on I'll think about sort of how I can film it so it's sort of a little bit easier to follow.
Sure.
But I mean,
I think, and Phil, you chime in on this if you like. I think for us and when we were playing the game quite often, the real fun of that game is when you understand the mechanics enough to build your own crew, and you go after a theme, you pull your miniatures, and you build something from scratch. That was incredibly fun for our group, and I think that's a big value to the game.
Absolutely. We started developing some crazy crews, and there was that one event that you did at the convention that a guy shows up with his French Foreign Legion,
Hmm.
and they didn't have rules for that out yet, and it was just kind of fun to see what people had created on their own, and yeah, it doesn't have to be balanced, but it is a good time.
Yeah, it's more, it's almost, I would argue that it's almost more of an RPG style skirmish game because of that, because you are building characters and the developing the characters and their histories, and getting the right sculpt behind them is a huge part of the fun. Setting up the scenario and why these two or more crews are battling it out is also part of the fun. One of my favorites is Phil's custom crew, which is a Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Oz crew, which was really entertaining.
It's fun. It's very little in the way of ranged power, but oh my god, are they beasts up close and personal?
Yeah, the Tin Man was wrecking it when the last time we played,
But
and I
yeah,
got to kill Toto, which was awesome. Like it took me like 6 turns to kill that stupid dog. I finally killed him.
but yeah, well, he wasn't doing a whole lot on the other end too. But no, we got to get another game in sometime soon.
Yeah, write up a special scenario for that and build some crews. Maybe I'll do a demon crew for IHM.
Things get dark in the land of Oz.
Yeah. Got a comment here from Total Command. What a surprise. Would you say Total Command is a great Helldorado podcast or the greatest Helldorado podcast? Good job, Dave. Anyone?
All I'm gonna say, you know, you can use your powers for good or for awesome, and he's definitely using his powers for awesome.
That's funny.
I haven't had a chance to check out Eldorado. Again, it's one of those miniatures games that I've had for ages and ages, and I had it back when I had my shop years ago. So I've got miniatures, but I don't have any. I don't have the new rules. I don't have the new cards. But it's a game that I'm interested in checking out, and I've been following on your how to play videos, which have been great.
Cool.
I haven't had a chance to actually play it.
Now you can play it with your existing rules. I don't know if you have. You probably have like the older cards, which are still fine. I mean, there are differences, some points differences and some wording differences with the upgraded cards, but you can still play the game and get a good understanding of how the game works with what you have already. But yeah,
So it's not sort of one of those things where I need to sort of replace everything.
No. No, I mean, in fact, you're probably better off just playing what you have and then deciding, hey, if you're really into the game, then maybe look at buying a new core set of cards. I think I sent you a link of where you can get those.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, thanks for that.
But yeah, it's right now. I would have to say this is my favorite skirmish game at the moment is Helldorado because. It's a great scenario-based game. The core mechanics are pretty simple, but the setting, and just how smooth everything is once you get keywords and once you understand the basic flow of the game. The game flows really nicely when you have two guys that have the core down. It's definitely one of my favorites, and I expect it will continue to be for some time.
I hate to interrupt real quick, but that's it for me. Have a good night, guys, and thanks for having me on.
All right, good night, Phil.
Take care, buddy.
All right, so, but yeah, Viv, there's one of our viewers, he just started a podcast for Eldorado, and they just did their intro to the game, and they go over the basic factions and some of the main talking points to the game, and obviously called Total Command because they because it's on our Q&A right now. So I highly recommend checking it out if you are going to look into the game. So, have you done another question for you? Have you done any more work on the spin casting or acquired any other miniatures? How are we doing on that front?
Yeah, I have. I recently, last week, had some more figures arrive from a sculptor in Germany. I can't remember what's there. There's one large 54mm sort of sci-fi sort of post-apocalyptic / sort of Fallout sort of character on a scenic base. He's quite nice. I got 6 sort of steampunk characters, which would be great for In Her Majesty's Name.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of the sets is a set of detectives. One of them's carrying a lantern, and the other one's got his pistol out. And then there's sort of a constable or an inspector with a pipe and leaning on a cane. They're cool little figures. And the other 3 were kind of just random sort of steampunk figures. There's one guy, those old school sort of diving suits where they have those big helmets on their head with the big
the bell diver.
Yeah, there's one guy like that. It's kind of like a cross between an astronaut and sort of one of those divers.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cool looking figure. So I've got those guys. I've got the molds for them. They already had molds for them, so I didn't have to make them. Excuse me. I didn't have to make them. It's just a matter now of spinning a whole bunch up, taking some pictures, getting some painted examples, popping them up on the site. So they're slowly coming on. I also got one 28mm female. She's again a little bit steampunkish. She's sort of standing there. She's got no shoes on. She's got some camo pants on. She's holding a sawed-off shotgun, and she's topless.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, I got to get that one. So she's got her titties out, and she'll be a fun figure to paint up. So I got those ones. I just finished making up a mold today of some pillow fighting women. So there's 6.
This is awesome.
6 figures.
I think you have a customer here that I want to pick some of those up.
they're good fun figures. I mean, they're not sort of Games Workshop quality sculpts, but I don't think they're supposed to be. Most of the stuff that we've picked up is are fun figures to have fun painting and then use in silly games. So those girls, there's 6 different sculpts, and they all sort of wielding pillows. And I've got a set of rules for those girls, and a small little sort of pillow fighting game that's played on a 6-inch by 6-inch playing surface, which is the bed basically, and the objective is to knock the other combatants off of the bed, and the last person standing is the winner. So there's all different sorts of rules for double overhand slams and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, so I finally got the molds for those girls. I had to remold them because I had some figures but didn't have molds for them, so I had to make new molds. So I finally got those done today, and now I just need to go through the rules and just change a couple of things that we're not happy with and come up with a name for it. But again, that was one of the figure ranges and the rules that I acquired in our original purchase of the Pulp 28 stuff. But there's a couple of rules that I just want to change a little bit. I'm not too sure about the name that the game originally had. But,
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I won't mention anything about it now because I'm just not 100% sure. But it was released a couple of years ago, and did really well apparently in Italy, which is really bizarre. But several people remember those figures. I mean, they were from I think maybe at that stage Ian was trading as Fiendish Fabrications, and he had those girls and a rule set for a game that he called Pillow a Go Go. So I'm not too sure about the name Pillow a Go Go. My wife's not massively keen on it, and neither am I. So, her being the boss, I'll need to dream up something new for it. But that'll be.
That sounds like fun, though. I mean, that sounds like that's the kind of not take yourself too seriously game that I would definitely be in on.
Totally, it's a fun, silly game that you can sort of smash out in sort of 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks once I get some figures cast up and we get the rules sort of finalised to how we want them to be, and then come up with a name. So they'll be available on our site in a couple of weeks. The rules will be free to download. Yeah, what else is going on? The resin casting and the creating production molds, which I had on my Knights of Dice channel, is a little bit on hold at the moment because I realised a major issue, which I won't go into at this stage. But I had to get some new equipment, so I'm waiting on that equipment to arrive.
Okay. So I kind of back to the last topic, or related to the last topic, real quick. I have to bring it up because I was reading something earlier last week about, hey, have these miniature games gone to cheeseball? And the example they brought up was Infinity, and the whole thing where, well, these are pinup girls, and is it too cheeseball? Has it gone over the top? I kind of, based on what you just explained to me, what this game is, I kind of see where your answer might be, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that. How do you feel about the miniature games being considered cheeseball, or the use of, I guess, sexualized characters in some of these games?
I think there's two parts, two answers to this question, which I'll go through. And the first part is the games. Mm-hmm. Look, like I mentioned before, we're playing with toy soldiers essentially. And we're playing a game to essentially have fun, enjoy our time with our friends, and how we do that. Whether we sit down and have a few beers and roll some dice, or we sit down and organise a barbecue and roll some dice and push some miniatures around a table. I think that's really up to us how we want to play our games and what type of games we want to play. So, from a general perspective, have games become sort of too raunchy or too sort of I can't remember the word that you used, but I don't think so. Mm-hmm. No one's forcing us to play these games. No one forces us to like a specific game. We like a specific game because for us, we have some association with it, or we connect somehow with the figures, or we like the game setting, or just the miniatures draw us in. So, from a game perspective, I don't think that. I mean, there has to be some limits with decency and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, if you want to play a game with scantily clad women and raunchy characters and all that sort of stuff, I don't see the problem with that. Now, in relation to the miniatures, pin-up miniatures and all that sort of stuff, and the scantily clad girls, and like that girl that I was talking about before that we've got that's bare-breasted and topless. That's a purely aesthetic choice. Miniatures of that type of genre or theme have been around for a long time, and no one's forcing us to buy them. No one is forcing us to like them. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but for some people that sort of that find that fun or interesting from a miniatures perspective. I mean, that's really their choice. I mean, I've seen some great ranges of pin-up girls. Andrea Miniatures, I don't know if you've looked at those guys, but they have a fantastic range of larger scale miniatures. I say you're familiar with them. Great. They have a huge range of different types of figures, and one of the series that I really love of theirs is their pin-up girls. Mm-hmm. And sort of if you haven't seen them, if you can imagine sort of all the artwork that went onto the side of bombers and stuff during World War II, it's those type of girls.
Right.
And I really like them, not because I'm perverted or whatever, but because I just like them. Yeah. So my take on that sort of issue that's apparently going around is, look, each to their own. I mean, we all sort of enjoy different sorts of things.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I,
Uh,
I don't think that every game is going that way, and um, maybe there might be a proliferation of it because I mean everybody knows that sex sells, and with such a large number of games and options available for us these days, with so many Kickstarters coming out sort of every week, there's another dozen Kickstarters for all different sorts of ranges, big or small or whatever. Um, that maybe there are some people out there that think, okay, well, if I want to get my game noticed, then I've got to include this type of um, genre or style or characters, and if that's what some people think, well, I don't necessarily think that's correct. The game sells itself on its merits, and it will attract a certain type of crowd, and you just need to realize that that's going to be your customer base.
sure. Sure. I actually, I've been thinking about this the past few days as well, and for me, when they first brought it up, it was kind of like, oh well, miniature games are going cheeseball, and there's hypersexualized pinup girls and all this stuff, and are we going too far? And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, why are we singling out the miniature wargaming fandom when you look at almost any other large fandom out there, and things are, there's sexualized. There's pin-up versions of everything. It's not just, metal miniatures, or it's not just war games that are seeing this stuff. This stuff has been around forever in comic books, in anime, in sci-fi, in any kind of basic fandom. It's been around. Nothing new. And those pinup girls, those date back to those date back to the 40s and 50s. So it's almost like miniature wargaming. To me, it doesn't seem like they're doing anything out of the ordinary. And like you said, it's just another part of the fandom that you can appreciate or not appreciate. It's entirely up to you. Frankly, when we started, I know when I started miniature wargaming, the closest you would ever get to I guess a sexualized model might be a boob on a Keeper of Secrets, or 3 boobs.
Sure.
That's what we had. It was a complete sausage fest of guys that wore power armor and tried to protect each other's gene seed, and then there was like one bowl thing with boobs, and that's all that they had.
Yeah.
And it really, at the time, it didn't line up with the images that were available in comic books and movies and cartoons and anime. It was like it stood out as being not one of those sexualized things, and it's almost like, well, you would figure it's gonna be in this category as well. And me personally, I love them. I mean, I'll paint that stuff all day. My wife comes by and she'll like see me painting something like this, and she'll go, "Wow, that's ugly. Why are you painting that? It's stupid." She'll see something like, say, this Relic Knights, and she'll be like, "Oh wow, that's awesome. I want to see more like that."
Yeah.
And it's just personal. I think it just comes down to personal taste, and I'm a little perplexed at why some people seem to have a problem with it in some miniatures games that are probably okay with seeing it in their anime. I don't understand that. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. See if anybody watching has a different opinion on this, because I know, like, from our own group, like, we used to post Anima Tactics miniatures, and some people were saying, "Oh, that's just dumb and that's hypersexualized," when they see some of those miniatures, and I'm like, really? Why? Let's see here. No comments yet on this. Oh, we got Mateo. I wish you did this on a different night so I can stay up and watch it, as I have to wake up at 5 a.m. Eastern. That's why you don't see me watching, but I watch it the next day. I appreciate you watching. So thank you for watching, and and you're probably asleep at this point. Uh, Steve says I should be painting more porn skin. I don't know. I think, Steve, if you have any comments on this, feel free to chime in. But I don't know. I've seen it's not the first time Infinity has been singled out either. Infinity probably being one of the bigger ones, and Kingdom Death that's an interesting one too. Because Kingdom Death really does go above and beyond with some of its imagery and some of the art in the sculpting. I almost feel like something like that is you have to be within context and understand what the artist is about, right? Because if you see something like that, if you walk into a modern day art museum, you can see pictures of, and I actually know some artists that do stuff. They'll do like bronze cast labia, and they'll put those on a frame, and they'll put them up in an art museum, and they'll sell for thousands of dollars. A guy does it on some miniatures, and we're like, hey, why are you doing that for Kingdom Death? So a lot of it has to do with context as well, I think.
Yeah, I see. Maybe it's got something to do with sort of breaking outside of the mold box. I mean, for a long time, miniature games have been associated with toy soldiers and fighting in guns and all that sort of stuff, which is always and even now still considered in some respects the province of men, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Now that we've got so much choice and there's so many people out there designing games, that people's from a designer's perspective, their sense of freedom of what they can and cannot do in terms of what is sort of the acceptable standards is changing. And so those people who want to create something that's a bit more risque, a little bit more cheeseball, a little bit more sort of provocative, perhaps feel like they have the ability to do that now because we don't necessarily just need to sort of keep playing our sort of grimdark future sort of Iron Man Warriors sort of game.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, with because miniature games as a genre, a lot has broken out past the standard head-to-head war type scenario. It's not just stuff shooting at each other anymore. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. But there's still people that, and I do see somebody asking, hey, would you be okay with your young daughter seeing some of that imagery when she sees you playing your games? How do you feel about that question? Because that one does come up as well.
It's interesting, and I've thought about that. Obviously, being the father of a young daughter, the world in which we live in is very different than as it has been since maybe 20 or 30 years ago. Everything in the TV that she's going to see is going to be, I hesitate to use the word sexualized, but even advertisement for Coca-Cola, etc. You have girls running around on the beach in their bikinis. She's gonna go to the beach with her friends, and she's gonna be wearing her swimsuit or whatever. That sort of imagery is going to be around her. What is more encouraging for me that is in my setting, she's going to see women being empowered to some respect. These girls are going to have a place of position on a battlefield. They're going to be fighting each other with pillows if that's the case, or fighting each other in a setting, or being the heroine or whatever in some sort of role-playing scenario or whatnot. I don't have an issue with it because it's something that's much easier for me to explain to her than what she's going to be exposed to as she grows and gets older. Of course, I'm not going to be sort of encouraging her to sort of be looking at and playing with sort of bare-breasted figures and naked figures and all that sort of stuff. I mean, they are available on the market, and some people enjoy painting those sorts of things. But there has to be some limits. Sure. But I think sort of, I mean, typically you look at a fantasy setting, right? You take a high fantasy setting where you've got let's take Conan for example, the movie. Let's just take this as an example. You've got Conan, right? He's running around. He's a barbarian. He's bare chested. He's muscled. He's wearing his bloody fox skins or whatever, and it's acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Then his counterpart, I can't remember her name. She's wearing her armor. It's all scantily clad. She's in a bikini and whatnot. And it's to some extent the expected normal fantasy armor for a woman.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at LARPing armor and stuff for women, a lot of it is that sort of chainmail bikinis and all that sort of stuff. Do I think it's politically correct? Well, I don't give a shit if it's politically correct. Do I think it's decent and normal? Well, I would if there wasn't this sort of unequal sort of standards of how different body shapes and people are sort of perceived. Why is it okay for a man to go to the beach with no shirt on, but it's not for a woman? Is that because she has mammary glands that are designed to feed her baby, or is it just this continuation of this social stigma of women should be protected and we have to protect them by covering them up? Well, we can see how that's working in other parts of the world where people aren't, let's say, as free as some cultures are.
Right, right.
It's this societal expectation of what the human form is and women. I mean, I'm getting way off topic here, but no. to quit my rambling and get back to the question, do I have a problem with my daughter seeing these sorts of associations of women in wargaming? No, I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you almost had me on because the topless women thing is kind of a close to home topic right now with the wives breastfeeding, breastfeeding in public, and some people are offended by that, which I find just completely ridiculous. It's not like we're not doing a public show or anything like that, and she's covered up, and well, that's another soapbox. But yeah, so it's kind of a related topic there. I would add actually that for somebody that is asking the question, what about your daughter? I would say, one of the things that I'd be looking for with my son, if when he got into something like this and he sees images of women that way, is really just instructing him that, hey, this is a fantasy setting. That show him a picture of the ripped out muscled guy and go, hey, do look at the men around you. Do they look like that? Well, yeah. Same thing. It's the same analogy. The women don't expect women to look like this or be like this. This is a fantasy setting, and kind of keep that keep a maturity about it, and a realism, and just say, yeah, that's the fantasy, but don't try to carry the improper perceptions, going into your attitudes towards women or whatever. So I don't know. That would be my kind of.
You see, that's another thing. If I can just follow on from that a little bit. The question was, do I feel comfortable about my daughter sort of being exposed to this sort of environment? Again, this relates back to what I was talking about this equality of gender, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And you'd mentioned about your son. Now, the same question could have been asked, and you answered it. It could have been asked of you: do you feel comfortable with your son? Mm-hmm. Sort of having sort of these sort of things around him, but that wasn't the question that was asked. So I mean, I find that a little bit interesting. It was immediately, what about the daughter? Well, we're both just human beings, different types of human beings. Why does the female have to be specified and protected as much as the male does?
Yeah, and as parents, as parents, it's part of your responsibility to frame stuff like this properly for your kids and say, look, this is out there. Instead of trying to shield them from it, you say, hey, this is out there, and when they're appropriate age, obviously, and you say, and when they can understand it, then you can explain it. But yeah,
totally.
But yeah, me personally, with the cheeseball stuff that's happening in gaming, I say my attitude is bring it on. You know, let's see. I want to see as many different genres out there as possible. I'd love to see, you know, less, you know, not so much always the same grimdark stuff, and see some of the lighter side of gaming,
Yeah.
and see some of the genres that people don't consider. Hey, that could be a miniatures game, a pillow fight. You know,
Yeah,
I'll play
totally.
it. Yeah, I want to play that. One of the things that I thought was kind of cool was, for example, Impact Miniatures had their roller derby game. I've always wanted to try it, but I can't seem to ever find it.
Hmm.
It just
Hmm.
sounds like a cool thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm the same. Give me less of the guns and glory, and give me something that I can have fun with, a story and an adventure.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall I think it's great that miniatures is expanding into these areas, and it'd be even better if our crowd could let go of a few perceptions and play some of these games, because I love to see more of it. All right, let's see if our little cheeseball talk here has gotten any comments from viewers. No, nothing yet. So I assume everybody watching agrees with us 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wrong with that.
Nice. So yeah, looking forward to seeing some of the miniatures that you put out.
Yeah, we're having fun right now, and for me and for us, it's very much just a hobby, sort of an extension of my hobby at this stage. And as my skills and experience and contacts and all that sort of stuff expand, then hopefully we'll be doing something. Um, I hesitate to use the word more seriously, but more stuff in the future. I'd love to release some games, and I've had a couple of concepts that I've been fooling around with for years, which I just the other day actually started doing some more work on. And but I'm in no hurry to do anything, and just really enjoying that as an extension of what I'm doing right now, basically sitting here and playing with some miniatures. Um,
Now, is it safe to assume, based on what you just said, is it safe to assume that you kind of have your top, or maybe your top 1 to 3 miniature games that you might have had buried in the back of your head that you're hoping to be able to put out one day?
what was that?
I asked, is it safe to assume that you kind of have your I guess the word I would use is your magnum opus of miniature games, that one that you're kind of holding back for now until you feel you're ready to start working on?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, anything that I produce or that we produce isn't going to be sort of everybody's cup of tea. I mean, that's everybody's game. But there's certainly some games that I've had in mind that I'd love to do something with, but probably never will. And then there's obviously these other 2 that I'd love to sort of explore further. But I'll take my time on doing that. I don't want to sort of rush into anything. I mean, I heard you guys talking before I joined about sort of Kickstarter and projects being delayed and people showing all these fantastic renders and stuff, and then find it hard to follow through. And I don't want to commit to something that is just going to create a stress for me.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, anything that I do in the future will be fully self-funded and either developed sort of up front on camera, so to speak, with other people having involvement, or just quietly in the background, and then eventually, once I've got everything sorted out, just sort of jump out and say, okay, well, look, this is what I've got, this is what I've been working on for the last 3 years, and everything's available for you to get into it.
As far as development is concerned, would you say you would.
Sorry, Octave, you cut off there, mate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm having some audio problems. I actually disconnected my headset, but I was wondering, between the two, as far as development's concerned, would you concentrate on getting the miniature line together first, or would you be working on the rule set first?
That's an interesting question, and to be honest, I haven't really thought about it too much. Most of the stuff that I've been working on at the moment is just the rules, because that's what I have control over at the moment. I mean, I'm a terrible sculptor. Most of what I've been working on at the moment is just the rules, understanding the setting and the environment. But before I go too much further into the mechanics of the game, I think there'd have to be an understanding of the miniatures also. Maybe just a concept of what they're supposed to be, etc. But I would concentrate perhaps more. I mean, if we're talking about me here, then I'd be concentrating on the rules, because ultimately that's what sells miniatures to people who are playing those games. The sculpts of a figure and all that is nice for collectors and painters and all that sort of stuff, and to some extent to the people that are playing the game. But I see people playing. Let's just take any of the big mainstream games, War Machine, for example. I see people buy figures from Privateer Press that are absolutely terrible and that they don't like, but because they want to have them, because the game has rules that allows them to do X, Y, Z. And I saw that happening with Malifaux. So many figures were being released every month. I had trouble from a retailer's perspective having enough shelf space to stock everything. New rules, and that's what sells figures. It's the rules that sell figures. People want to use those rules, and as such, they need a figure. If you don't have a figure available for them, they're going to proxy something or find something from another range. But for me, it will be just getting an understanding of the rules for my game, and then making sure that they're play tested with people, because I'm one of those sort of people that says, look, you don't need to have a Space Marine to play Space Marines.
Right.
If you want to play with Space Marines, well, find something that you want to play with. I mean, after all, any of these games that we play, you could play these games with coloured tokens.
Yes.
We're playing a three-dimensional game of checkers, basically. So you don't need to have the figure, but you need the rules to be able to work well. The rules have to be sort of really thought about properly, and either loose enough to enable the players to be able to play the game and enjoy it their way, which is part of the reason, or one of the aspects that I like about In Her Majesty's Name, is that the rules aren't so prescriptive that you're always going back there to find out the rules. You can make things up on the fly, and there'll always be encounters where you'll have to say, okay, well, what do we do here? Let's have a tot of rum and think about this, and then get on with the game. But from my perspective, I'd concentrate on the rules first.
And that's I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what Craig and Charles were. That's what he says that they were aiming for when they developed that game, was, keep things to allow the players to kind of explore the space with their imagination. Leave some areas for you to interpret, and allow them to use whatever miniatures they have available, and one step further, even be able to write up their own rules for their miniatures. And it's a fantastic book for that. And that's kind of, I don't know if you watched the interview that we had with Craig. That must have been a couple of months back. He was on the show.
I haven't. I just found it just the other week, actually, and added it to a playlist.
Oh, cool. Okay. Good. Yeah, I highly recommend watching that, because he has a lot. He really explains the spirit of his game, what he was looking for, what he had hoped to transmit to the people who play his game. And it's a really, really interesting interview. I think Craig is don't tell him I said this, but I think he's a fascinating guy. But yeah, it's just great to have that kind of freedom, and miniatures games, I think, is the medium for for that level of freedom. Even old Games Workshop back in the day, it was more about you rolled up your random stats for your characters, but a lot of times they used to have rules for how to scratch build your vehicles, or you could build your own robots from scratch in 40K. There was open source stuff that they had originally, and it's good to see stuff like that in the miniature games.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there'll always be sort of hyper competitive people who want to play a game in a competitive environment, and as such, you need to have rules that really sort of cater for that sort of audience. But for me, as the type of gamer that I am, anything that I produce is going to be in the spirit of having fun, and allow the player to have some sort of flexibility to be able to alter the game to suit themselves. So that they can enjoy, for them, what they perceive to be a fun and interesting activity, rather than sort of what I think I should prescribe for them. Again, that's another reason why I really like In Your Majesty's name, because of that. If I don't like something, well, then I can change it. And because the rules are so super simple and there's not a lot of them, then you don't necessarily feel bad about sort of, okay, well, I'm changing this rule, but what about everything else?
It's a great storytelling game. You have a nice come up with a nice backstory and a setting, and you build a specific set for it. You can have a really
Yeah, and I mean, when I watched your videos a while back, I mean, you hit straight on the head that it's a narrative-based game, and that's exactly what it is, and that's why I enjoy it. I want to play a game that sort of has some story to it. Like I said, I've had enough of the guns of glory. I want to be able to play a game on the tabletop that I'm going to enjoy as much as sort of watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, for example. I want to have that adventure on the tabletop. That's my adventure. That's what I enjoy about the game.
Okay, moving along. Got pretty good progress going here on these demons. Let's see if we have any more comments coming in. Okay, so back to the comments about the cheese ball stuff. This is from Tin Man. Somebody needs to produce some badonkadonk having minis for me to collect and paint up. That's my position on the issue. I think some of that Kingdom Death stuff has some kind of thick-bottomed women in it. That's funny.
There is one figure in the Andre Miniatures line that I saw a while back now, as I was flipping through their pin-ups, and I mean it's all these sort of 1920s and 1930s shapes of women, like real proper women with waists and all that sort of stuff. And then there's this one picture of this one sculpture of this woman who's got this big fat ass, and I saw that and I was like, oh, I'd love to have that miniature. It should be so much fun to paint. And she's like this big buxom woman sitting on a chair, and she's got this massive ass. And I just thought, yeah, I'd love to have that one.
Yeah, I'd paint that. That would be hilarious. So you mentioned to me earlier that you went to a small local gaming convention.
Yeah, we have one here every year called Little Wars. It's I think this year was the first time they've also had it in Adelaide, which is another capital city in a different state. Um, and there's all different sorts of stuff that goes on there. It's sort of like a small convention. There's a couple of retailers that come along. There's a whole bunch of buy, swap, and sell stands. Terrain builders and small little hobby businesses come to promote themselves, and then just a whole bunch of games that you can go and play. It's primarily about the games. Going there and checking it out. And I think they probably had maybe 15 to 20 different games being demoed and played. And that's where I saw that game that I was mentioning to you on Facebook with muskets and with the White Arm, a small little skirmish game that's been made by some people that I know, and that looked like a fun game. So yeah, Little Wars is all about sort of getting together and exploring new games and finding out what's out there and meeting new people and maybe grabbing yourself a bargain at one of the second-hand tables or something like that.
That's cool. That sounds a lot like the last convention we were at, which was Strategicon. It's in LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small convention in LA that they kind of encourage people to bring the homegrown games or the not as popular games, and the idea is to try as many different ones as you can.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly.
a very fun convention.
Yeah, well, that sounds exactly like Little Wars. I was a little disappointed this year with the venue. They'd moved it to sort of one of the town halls down the south side of town. So they had a bigger space. They were in sort of the main auditorium there at the town hall. They had a bigger space, but it used to be held at the German Club, which was a little bit closer to town, and it was the German Club. They had beer on tap, German beers, and all that sort of stuff. And I think they tried to sort of make up for that by having a German sausage van out the front with bratwurst and all that sort of stuff. But so I was mildly disappointed with the new venue because the German Club was great. They had the same amount of space, but at the German Club it was split up into 3 different rooms, whereas here it was just a big auditorium. And I think I prefer the closer, sort of more personal setting of having 3 or 4 games in each room. And if you want to learn about XYZ, like last year I went and watched a small demo of Carnival, or Carnival, or however you want to pronounce it. And in that room they had a couple of other small skirmish games, and you could go in there, check them all out, and it was nice and friendly. But here it was just sort of this big auditorium, and not big, but bigger. And it didn't feel as sort of as personal, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah. Speaking of which, what is your impression of Carnival?
Look, I don't know. I saw that very simple demo, and then some of the things that I've watched on YouTube and heard people talk about. Look, I love the figures. Oh no, you're shooting me. Sorry.
It's okay. Uh-oh.
I glued this figure together, but the super glue that I've used hasn't worked, and so this part is just broken off, and all the gap filling and resculpting I've done is now.
Oh man.
Anyway, I'll come back to that in a minute. I don't know. I really haven't spent enough time looking at it properly to understand the game. I know that the figures are fantastic, but from a game perspective, look, I'd be out of my depth to make comments about it. Just don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I'm interested in that game mainly because the miniatures look fantastic, but it's out here. It's very difficult to find information on that game, let alone anybody that plays it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other ones that has come up recently is Bushido. One of my friends, Cameron, has been posting about getting into Bushido and learning it, and I'd seen the miniatures and wanted to paint it, but they're in the UK. It's a little harder to get some of the miniatures out here. That's been the main deterrent for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bushido is an interesting game. Again, I mean, it's funny with some of these smaller skirmish games that sort of Bushido's been around for a while. and it came here and didn't really do very well. A lot of the retailers were after a while clearing all their stock at ridiculous prices, and at that stage I was like, too many miniature games. But I really wish that I'd picked it up because some of the figures are cool. And excuse me, one of my friends who has the rule book and picked it up for a ridiculous price, $10 or something, thinks it's a really cool game. Now, I haven't read the rules, but I'm really interested in reading them because Ty finds good games, and I'd be interested to check it out. And it's interesting that these games come around and then it sort of disappear for a while, and then several years later they sort of seem to jump back onto the circuit. And I don't know if that's because people sort of have this sort of this rotation of games that they go through and go looking for new stuff. But yeah, it's interesting how they just keep on sort of, they'll hit the spotlight and then disappear for a while and then they'll come back. It's interesting.
Yeah, like case in point here, this game, El Dorado.
Yeah,
been around
exactly.
for a while. It's still, I mean, it has maintained. Apparently, it's maintained its following in Europe.
Sure.
You know, in France in particular, some other countries, but in the U.S. it never really. I don't think it ever really peaked, and it's seeing a bit of a resurgence here because of the Kickstarter, and locally, a few of us have picked it up, and I'm hoping to get some people to play it with me because I really enjoy this game. And love to see more of it going on.
It's interesting that you mentioned about the differences between Europe and the US there, and it's certainly the same here in Australia. That there is a big difference in how gamers sort of accept a game in Europe. A lot of the smaller. I mean, one of the games that jumps to mind is Freebooter's Fate. I don't know if you've looked at that, but it's a pirate skirmish game. It's been around for a while now and never really did very well here. But in Europe, it's huge. I know in Germany, it's a massive game. I don't know if it's from Germany or if it's a French game. I think it might be German, or one of those regions around that sort of area of Europe. But they seem to have this. I don't know if I use the word adoption of these types of skirmish games, whereas for us here at least anyway, there's still this big grip on the big four games that seems difficult to break. I don't know. I certainly think that here in Australia at least that our population is a certain component of that. I mean we've got a very small population, and then you throw a niche into that and you end up with an incredibly small number of potential gamers. But,
that makes sense. I think
it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, even here, like in Southern California, which is incredibly densely populated, and you can drive 20 miles and you're guaranteed to hit some hobby store. Usually before that. That said, there still is this major emphasis on the big. We'll call them the big. I guess 3, maybe 4 games. But luckily, there are so many people that you can still find, people either leaving one game and looking for another one, or one of my favorite things to do is to try to catch somebody on a crossover. Somebody that's playing maybe a board games, or somebody that has never even played a miniatures game. For me, I think those people take on a completely different experience in miniature game, and in some cases they end up enjoying them because they're not stigmatized by you have to play a game this way, you have to play a large game, or you have to play a popular game. They were the ones that were breaking out of their routine first, and so they're okay with being part of something a little more niche.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that said, we still have. I have that frustration too because it can be frustrating that to see people that, especially the funny thing is people that play like 40K, and they'll walk by and they see your game and they're like, "Oh, the miniatures are amazing, and you showed me how to play it, and I love the mechanics, but I just can't afford to get into another game." And you're like, "Okay, I understand. I sort of understand that, but you're talking about 40K, the expense of playing that game, and the expense of playing this game, which is a fraction of
Yeah.
the game that you're currently playing." But it comes down to priority, and if they don't feel, a lot of the fear is, hey, I might only spend $60 to start up your game, but maybe I'll never find another person to play it with. And,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. That's always the challenge, and it's like you said, it's a legitimate fear. It's one of the challenges of trying to get new games sort of accepted. I mean, I find it really interesting that there's so many of these Kickstarters that seem to do so well. I mean, they raise massive amounts of money for their funding and reach their goals and all that sort of stuff. But I'll use the word real world, in a real world environment where you might be at a club or a shop or something, and someone's trying to encourage you to get into a game. Everything is right there in front of you, but there's still this hesitation from a lot of people that are, okay, yeah, well, I don't know if I'll get a game. And I guess that's highlighted from what I was saying at the very beginning when I first joined, that I'm having trouble trying to find people to play with. But I mean, that's because of my situation at the moment with the baby and not really getting out and socialising with a lot of people like I used to. But yeah, I don't know. There's so many great games out there, and so many of them are really, really inexpensive to get into. But it can be a hard sell. I mean, you'd have much more experience at this than I would with all your conventions that you attend and all the games that you've demoed. That just trying to get people into the game can be easy,
Yeah.
but convincing them then to invest into it both financially and emotionally is really the hard sell.
Right. And sometimes it's sometimes it's very hard to predict too, because you may have somebody that you met Friday at a convention that spent the entire weekend playing your game, loving your game, and then you see them next week and they're, I'm more into this game now. Conversely, you may have somebody that just walked by your table, didn't even get a demo in, just kind of watched you or listened to you teach the game to somebody else, and they show up and they end up being the guy that plays your game, for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has I think that has been working for me is having a board game or a multiplayer game that's a backup. Like for example, the Ninja games are these Cypher games, the Eldorado, Anima Tactics, which are traditionally two-player games. If you show up at the hobby store or the game club alone, it can be very difficult to just try to find one person to sit down and play this game with you. Whereas if you sort of break the ice with a multiplayer board game, you can get 5-6 people playing this board game with you, and then you can ask one of them, hey, does one of you guys want to try this this skirmish game with me afterward? And usually that works pretty well, because then you have a little bit of rapport with people, and then you have a group that's played a game with you, and then you might have within that group of 5, you may have 1, maybe 2 people that might be inclined to play a miniature skirmish game. And that's usually what I found is, if you show up to the hobby store, I bring like Super Dungeons, or I bring 25 or something like that, and I'll go to these stores by myself, sit 4 or 5 strangers down with me, play the game, and then say, hey, who wants to try Eldorado or Anima after? And that's worked very well, actually.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good tactic, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might have to head off shortly.
That's actually good timing, because we are at about time, and I am gonna call the show here.
It's been great to jump on and have a chat
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully you hop on another time when we're painting again.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I've got heaps of stuff that I'd like to get painted, and Wednesdays works really well for me, like I've mentioned before. So um, we will talk again soon, I'm sure.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for hopping in, for you guys watching the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll go ahead and catch you on the next one.